I mean, I guess I played with the same GI Joes that everybody else did, but I also made guitars and things like that. So I was really into music for a while, and then when I was getting my parents, because of the fact that they kept seeing me like make guitars, they finally bought me one when I was going into seventh grade, and so my best friend growing up and I both took guitar lessons from the same guy. And so he took lessons. This was during the summer.
Intersection of good drinks, good music, and good times. This is Hops and Spirits Bar Conversations.
We have a really awesome episode for you this week, but before that, don't forget to join our Facebook group, Country Music and Bourbon, to keep up with the podcast, all the fun stuff that we're sharing, because folks like Adam, who I'm about to introduce, are doing so many amazing things. And we have, like I said, such an amazing artist, songwriter with us. He's a Southern music artist, songwriter. He brought his special blend of country, soul, and Americana roots to his newly updated album, Adam Hood's Different Groove, which is now available. Let's welcome in Adam Hood.
Hey man, how are you?
I am good. How are you doing tonight?
Doing well. It's finally getting some rain here in Alabama, so I can't complain at all. We've been needing it for a long time, so nice to be home for a little while. And yeah.
Well, I was going to say, you stay busy, and we're going to get into that here in a second, but this is Bar Conversations. I decided, because I know what you've been doing, and you've been behaving yourself for a few years, I decided to go with a Lagunitas Hoppy Refresher. So therefore, I got to ask, what's your favorite drink these days?
I probably drink more Red Bull than I really should, to be honest with you. That's kind of been my drink of choice for the past 5 years. And the irony is, like, when I did drink, everybody was, I drink excessive amounts and nobody said anything to me about it. And I drink 3 Red Bulls a night and people start worrying about me. So, which is really, to me, I think that's the ultimate irony. But yeah, but other than that, I mean, I would say I don't necessarily wake up to a Red Bull, but that's been the thing that's kind of held me over through the whole attitude of sobriety, really,
Well, no coffee, no sugary fun drink, nothing like that?
Oh, sure. I drink a ton of coffee. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I ingest way more caffeine than I should. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, something's got to keep me going.
That is very fair. And like I said at the beginning, as we get into this, you will understand why he needs a little bit of caffeine to keep going. But is it true that you got into this crazy thing that we call music at age 16? Is that when your first gig started and how it all began?
That was the first paying gig. Yeah. I've started, like, I mean, I guess if you call making money professionalism, then yeah, I was 16. I started, I started just like most kids in the South do. I started in church, and that was, I was about 14 when I got started playing in front of people in church, and did that for a little while. And then when I was 16, I guess that was my junior year of high school. My mom had a friend that had a little restaurant in Opelika, where I'm from, and yeah, I played one Friday and Saturday night a month. I made $150, and so yeah, that was the beginning. That's what started the whole thing for me.
Well, I'm curious. Like, obviously, you started at a youngish age in the industry. Did you love music though at a young age? Like, was that something you gravitated towards?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I don't remember a time in my life when music wasn't a part of it, to be honest with you. I mean, even when I was a kid, I didn't come from a musical family, and I'm an only child too. So, I mean, I kind of had to find these things on my own. And so, music was just, I mean, when I was little, instead of, I mean, I guess I played with the same GI Joes that everybody else did, but I also made guitars and things like that. And so I was really into music for a while. And then when I was getting my parents, because of the fact that they kept seeing me like make guitars, they finally bought me one when I was going into seventh grade. And so my best friend growing up and I both took guitar lessons from the same guy. And so he took lessons. This was during the summer, and so he would take David would take lessons on a Monday, or whatever the day was, and I would take them the next day. And so we kind of got a 2-for-1 guitar lesson for that summer, going 7th and 8th grade. So yeah, I started getting into it really early. Yeah.
Well, and I'm curious, what music did you grow up on? Because obviously, if you loved music, what were you listening to? Wanting to jam out to?
I mean, I can remember Stevie Ray Vaughan's last album, So I mean, when I was there, that Stevie Ray was alive and making records, and Clapton was still, the Journeyman album was out, but then that was also Garth Brooks's, the first album of Garth Brooks's came out when I was probably that was probably 8th, 9th grade, stuff like that. And then there was Poison and Cinderella and all that stuff, and then again, starting out in church, the interesting thing about, starting out in church, like those were the years that guys like Stephen Curtis Chapman was, his kind of formative years coming up too, in his first couple of records. And he was one of those people that was kind of like Garth Brooks, that you noticed that they were guys that played an acoustic guitar and sang songs. And so like they were the epitome of a singer-songwriter basically. And so, that was what it was a good time to sort of be into playing guitar and singing at that time, because of the fact that was a kind of a trend. Really, it was a trend in Christian music, it was a trend in country music, it was a trend, like when you think about like all those Bon Jovi videos and stuff like that, like they were all acoustic guitars and stuff like that. So there were all these rock bands that did all these ballads and stuff like that. So if you wanted to learn to play acoustic guitar, that was the late 80s to early 90s. That was a good time in music. And again, same thing, like, I was really into Travis Tritt and guys like that. And so they kind of epitomize, an interesting style.
Well, and like you said, you growing up in Alabama, how did that impact you? Whether it was just family wise to music wise, what was surrounding you?
Well, I mean, musically, we pretty much got everything that came on the radio the same way everybody else did. It's just the stuff that was on the radio then was really good, to be honest with you. And not to say anything derogatory about what's on the radio now, but there's just so many more forms of there's just so many other ways to find music now. And so if you don't like what's on the radio, you can go listen to satellite radio. If you don't like what's on satellite radio, you can go find an internet radio station or something like that. And so really all we had what was on the radio, and we had the things that you could go to the record store and buy, the cassettes and stuff like that. And so, and that was also a time when MTV and CMT and GAC, when they were playing music, where there weren't shows on there. And if there were shows that were on there, there were shows that were about music or about the artists that were making that music. And so I was really able to sort of absorb a lot of music, because we had fewer outlets, but we had more music that was on those outlets. And so yeah, I mean, I just anything that I could find. I mean, it was one of those things where if I found it on the radio, I would go buy the cassette. And if you like, I went to see Travis Tritt live a bunch. And when I saw Travis, one time he played Night Moves, and so I went out and bought Bob Seger's live Bullet. And then one time I saw him play, and he played Copperhead Road. So I went out and bought Steve Earle's Shut Up and Die Like an Aviator. So I found all these other forms of music through the people that I listened to. I listened to the covers that he was playing. I listened to the Hank Jr. stuff. And so, I went and bought Old Habits and things like that. So I found music through other artists as well.
Well, and it's really cool to hear that, because, knowing what you do now and everything is amazing. Is it true, though, that up until you released Different Grooves the first time, you had never been across the Mason-Dixon line or on an airplane?
I'm pretty sure I'd never flown. I want to say we had, when I recorded Different Groove, we had just started touring. And so I want to say 2004, we had gone to Texas. But so I'd actually crossed the Mississippi River, but never on an airplane before. So yeah, so that was it was all new to me. And so I went from I went from just living in Alabama and recording records and traveling every now and then, like 1 or 2 weekends a month, to spending, what was a pretty much a 3-year time period back and forth to LA, making the first Different Groove record. So it was a bit of I say it was a culture shock, but at the same time, we recorded that record in Burbank. You know what I mean? It's kind of it wasn't like we were on Sunset or anything like that. You know what I mean? So it was kind of the neighborhoody area of LA. So.
Well, and you decided to go back to it. Obviously, like I said, Adam Hood's Different Groove is a re-release basically of this album. What
Right.
brought you back to wanting to go back to that album and bring it back to life again?
Well, it was a lot of different things. I mean, number one, I had learned so much from a recording aspect. Basically, I've made 8 records after that, and so as far as like just being comfortable in the studio, that was a big thing, and there were just arrangements on the original Different Groove album that we just never settled on live, and so it just got to the point to where, like, with the band, and we just said, how about we do this? How about we just establish these arrangements to where we never have to say what's going to, because, there was a couple of years like this, the guitar solo to 22 Days, like I never played it correctly, just because the arrangements would always change. And so I kind of got tired of that. And then I had the opportunity to go into the studio with Gordy and the guys, the Band of Heathens guys in Austin. And I knew, those guys are really great at remaking things. They make things, but they also kind of, they're really good at, just putting fresh air on older stuff. And so that was a really big, I knew Gordy was, when I met him through Jason Eady and had the opportunity to go record, we had been talking about remaking this record for a long time, just because of the fact that, it needed a fresh coat of paint on it. And so we, he was the guy for the job. So we figured that this would be the perfect opportunity to remake this record with him.
Well, and obviously, even if you've wanted to do it for a while, there has to be challenges behind that. What was the most difficult part about going back in and recording things that, like you said, had been around for a while? You may have done different things live and so forth.
I think the biggest challenge for me was just being vulnerable enough to allow people to say they don't like it. These were the songs that when I started going to Texas, a lot of people, 22 Days was the first song that I ever released to Texas radio. Different Groove was the second one. Buzzes Like Neon was the third one. So there's a demographic of people that was my introduction. And that was my introduction to Texas music in general, which is honestly, Texas music is the format that's fed me. And, we paid our mortgage playing in Texas for a long, long time. And so those songs are special to radio stations. Those songs are special to people. And so that was the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge was that. And trying to stay as close as we possibly could to how we did it originally, but still make it sound fresh, because, you could do it one or two ways. And Gordy and I talked about that a lot. You could either make them completely different, or you could make them really similar. And I think we did both. Different Groove, the song itself, like, that's a pretty far departure from the original version. However, the rest of the songs, we pretty much hung in there as close as we could to the original version of it. The few changes that we made were changes that I've always wanted to make. There was a line in one song that I changed, and then there was a one measure break in Varnado that I took out, and just little things like that. Things that your average listener wouldn't pay any attention to, but stuff that just I wish we hadn't have done this as opposed to this, and so I had the opportunity to do that, so we did it.
Well, yeah, I was going to say you legitimately had the chance to go back and redo everything. And
right.
Obviously, when you think about things, obviously life has changed a lot from when that album dropped to when this one dropped. I was going to say, what's that journey been like? Because, people might see all the fun things you've done since or whatnot, but it's not been an easy journey, I'm sure.
It's been a long journey. Yeah. And honestly, everything's changed, but then again, nothing's changed, to be honest with you. I'm still I'm still driving my own car around. I mean, the guys that were in the band are, some of the guys that were in the band are still in the band. And I've had 40 different players, but still, the guy that plays bass with me now is the guy that I wrote Play Something We Know with. So, I mean, and I recorded the record, the EP before Different Groove. I recorded it at Justin's house. And like I said, he plays bass for me now. So a lot has changed. But then nothing has. I mean, I have a completely different career in writing, and that's another thing that really wasn't. I don't want to say it wasn't a goal or a plan, but I've sort of found my way to Nashville through Texas to LA, and then went to Nashville. You know what I mean? Which is kind of backwards, So that's changed a lot.
Well, it's worked out well for you, and I'm curious because, like you said, you've gotten a lot more into the songwriting. You're still putting out albums. You've been able to put out several albums. But I'm gonna put you on the spot. What's your favorite thing to do? Is it to be a musician, or is it to also go in the studio and write songs with people?
I mean, I love writing, and to be honest with you, that's the thing right now in my career that's probably the most rewarding. That's the thing that's the most gratifying. That's the thing that, like, I said the other day to somebody that it's kind of my area of service, really. Like, that's the time that I can lend my talents to someone else's record. Because when I write with other artists, typically we're writing for that artist. You know what I mean? Like Cody Jinks and Miranda and people like that. Like Cody sells a lot more records than I do. So if I'm going to write with Cody, we're going to write for Cody's record. You know what I mean? That's the cool thing about it. I mean, it's a collaborative effort. And, I think if Cody and Miranda and people like that, if they didn't see something in my abilities that they didn't want to participate in, I wouldn't get a phone call. But nonetheless, it's nice for me to be able to do what I do to help them get music, and to have just, stuff that's just different from what they would do. That's the beauty in the collaborative effort. And it's just, just finishing a song, it's just rewarding. There's just a burden lifted when it's done that is pretty unexplainable.
Well, and like you said, you've been able to write songs for yourself, write songs with others. What is that process like for you? I'm always curious because I know a lot of people, sometimes it's very personal, sometimes it's just an idea. How does that work for you? Because what I think goes so well for you in your writing ability is just to relate to everything. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, I always want to write songs that I'm willing to record. You know what I mean? And typically, I mean, even writing with females, like, there's plenty of songs that I've written with. Well, I mean, there's a lot of songs off the Shape of Things record I wrote with Ashley Monroe, and that people are familiar with, and stuff like that. So I always want to be able to say that the song is I don't, for lack of a better word, good enough to where, I'll record this song. I love whatever song it is. And so that's really important to me. But at the same time, it's always smart to kind of go in and do your homework. And Brent Cobb and I kind of, I have developed, we've sort of developed this kind of homework attitude about it. And I learned it from Brent, really, that, you always want to go in with another artist and have at least a verse and a chorus of something that is representative of what they do. So, I mean, if I'm, let's again, let's say Travis Tritt, we wrote, Brent and I wrote 3 songs on his last album. And so what we did was we got together for a couple of days before that and just kind of hashed out a few songs that we knew that we could take to him and that he liked. And that was kind of the reason why we got 4 songs, because he had songs that he was working on and said, hey, can you help me finish this? And we had stuff to where, we thought that they lent themselves to what he does. And so you try to go in with that kind of preparation. And sometimes with newer artists or artists that you're not that familiar with, you have to kind of do a little bit of listening up. Like, I'll go through an artist catalog, or at least like their top 15, 20 songs, and kind of find what's a familiar key or something that is just some sort of a repetitive thing that's not a lyric. You know what I mean? Because typically, if they're coming to you with new stuff, they want fresh lyric, but fresh lyric that also is kind of similar musically, but not the same. You know what I mean? But like if you know, there's you can write different chords in the same key and it still be similar music. You know what I mean? But so you put fresh lyric on similar music and you have fresh material. So that's kind of my process.
Well, yeah, because those artists don't want to have their folks all of a sudden come in and be like, "What is this?" They want a
Right.
little familiarity.
Exactly. And a lot of people have, they have certain keys that they sing better in. I'm a guy that sings. I do, my sweet spot is between the key of a G and A. I can sing in most anything, but some of them are higher than others. And so, there's if I'm like that, most artists are like that. And so if I can find that area where their sweet spots are without having to ask them, that's it always, it seems to make things a lot more productive.
Well, like you said, very productive in the sense that if you look at your writing credits, it's a long list. And what is
Thank
it
you.
like being able to work with those folks? Like you said, you worked with Miranda Lambert, Travis Tritt, Little Big Town, Muscadine Bloodline. So many artists, so many different types of artists in the country realm.
It's nice to be able to say that. It's also one of those things where I've worked with a lot of people that completely didn't do anything with the stuff we've done. You know what I mean? So it kind of, it puts a little reality into that, and that's what makes it more palatable. I think that's kind of what, there's a balance in that kind of thing to where you can sort of take it, and have a little bit more responsible attitude about it, and it doesn't go to your head so fast when you hear no 60% of the time. I kind of hear no about 80% of the time, to be honest with you. But the 20% that are yeses are, they turn out to be pretty good ones. So
Well, and I'm curious about that because, like I said, you've worked with Little Big Town. You mentioned Miranda Lambert. You got to hear some of your songs on the Opry stage,
yeah,
but up until last year, you hadn't been on the Opry stage.
right.
What was it like when you finally got to be on the stage performing your songs?
I mean, so I did it twice, and the first time it was just kind of muscle memory. I was just so nervous, and there's nothing to be nervous about, but at the same time, there's everything to be nervous about. Um, and it's a whole nother ball game, man. It really is. And Jason Eady and I kind of did it around the same time, and Jason's one of my best friends, and I feel like that was kind of, it's almost like your gateway into country music. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of your like. It's interesting to after all these years, you sort of moved into this different echelon of artists. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of this acceptance by the world of country music and the fact that you get to play the Grand Ole Opry. And so yeah, it was really special. I can't really remember a time in my life that was a singular moment that changed things that much. You know what I mean? Meeting Miranda, of course. She was kind of the person that gave me my job and kind of, for lack of a better word, she kind of discovered me. But that was a process. You know what I mean? Like we met. I played a couple of shows with her. We wrote a bunch, and then it took 8 years to get a song on a Miranda Lambert album. It took 6 months to get a publishing deal, thanks to her. But it took 8 years to get a song on her record. But with the Opry, it was like this happened, and then things started changing after that.
Well, and you've gotten to perform at the Opry, Red Rocks, so many cool places with your career, but not overseas. What's
Yep.
going on there? I feel
I don't
like
know.
that should be something.
I know it's a good question, and Sunny Sweeney is a dear friend of mine, and she's over there now. And so um, it's interesting, and I'm glad you asked because I would love to do it, and I understand the sort of appreciation that a lot of places overseas have for American music, and um, uh, I would really love to be a part of it. To be honest with you, the doors haven't opened. Honestly, I think all it would take would be for someone to say, "Hey, come over here and play for us," and I'd do it. But no one's ever asked me.
Well, I feel like you've got enough friends in the industry. Someone's got to be going over there,
Somebody should
right?
say something, right? I agree. I think you're absolutely right, and I'm surprised that no one has yet. I wish they would. I would be glad to go because I mean, it really is kind of the uncharted territory that we just haven't gotten to yet, and I'd love to do it. I'd be willing to go to Europe anytime.
Well, and like I said, you've got so many friends in this industry because of what you do and
Right.
how well you do it. By the time this drops, we're talking before Thanksgiving, but this will drop after. You'll be doing some of the Whiskey Myers acoustic shows.
Yeah.
Next year, you're going to be going on tour with Drake White. What's it like to be able to go do shows on the road with those folks that you've made such a connection with? Because even I know with Whiskey, I think Brent's going to be on tour with them as well.
Right. Yeah. So it'll be me and Brent and Aaron Ratier, who is a incredible writer and a good buddy of mine and a good buddy of Brent's. And so, I mean, the three of us, it'll be really fun for the three of us to kind of be together doing that. And I mean, yeah, I've known the Whiskey Myers guys for a long time, and I mean, I wrote two songs on their Mud album, and then I wrote one song on the White album of theirs. I think it's just a self-titled Whiskey Myers. I wrote Rolling Stone with them. I think that was a single. And so, and with Drake, Brent and I wrote Grandpa's Farm that he recorded, and we wrote that with our friend Jason Sines. And so, and that was on my Shape of Things album. And so, but Drake is from Alabama, and so I've known him for a long time, and it really is. It's nice. It's cool to have the opportunity to go on the road with those guys because, to be honest with you, I mean, it's kind of the thing that we kind of needed this. I mean, we've been doing some plowing of our own for a long time, and it's a fine line between just always doing it yourself and to have the support of people that are, I mean, in a better place than you are, really. I mean, they're selling more tickets, and so the best way to get in front of new audience is to get in front of established audience that another artist has, and it's a kind gesture for them to do those kind of things. And I really, really appreciate it, and so, and again, like I said, I also feel like that just because of the day and age that we live in, and I think that the average listener I don't think they care as much about who wrote the songs as I would, I mean, because when I hear a song, because I'm a writer and I've always been like this, I want to know who wrote it. And I don't know that everybody thinks that way. And so these things are the kind of things that sort of showcase my writing ability to these audiences, for them to go, hey, Adam wrote this song, or whatever it may be. I mean, to tell their audience that, I mean, that's pretty important. I mean, it's really been the thing that's been very helpful for a lot of writers that are kind of moving into that world.
Well, yeah, because like you said, if you're on tour with Drake, if you're on tour with Whiskey, they can bring you up and go, hey, this guy right here that you just listened to earlier wrote this song with me, and you get to perform it. And I gotta feel like that's a cool experience for you to share with others.
Absolutely. I mean, I get messages from people a fair amount they'll send me videos, and they'll say, they'll send me videos of Little Big Town doing Front Porch Thing, or they'll send me videos, of stuff like that. And they won't realize that they may send them to me thinking that Drake covered this song or something like that. You know what I mean? And so, or vice versa. If they hear me doing Front Porch Thing, they think, wow, that's pretty cool that you did this Little Big Town song. Well, actually I wrote it, and so, or the other way around. It's funny that I heard Drake White do Grandpa's Farm. Yeah, he recorded that. You know what I mean? So even people that are familiar with my stuff or theirs, they just don't connect the two. And so there's where that opportunity is where that realization kind of is made light of, really.
Well, and obviously during all of this, you got to have a good family to lean on. Good core group there. What has it been like for you with your wife, your daughters, and so much to be able to lean on and enjoy all this with?
Well, the good news is, when I'm home, and so my wife and I kind of laugh about the fact that my youngest, she takes ballet, and I'll be like the only guy it's like me and all these women in ballet class.
Hey, I feel you. I feel you. I was there earlier tonight. There were a couple guys there, but yeah,
Yeah.
we are the minority there.
Absolutely, yeah. And so, and I kind of take a lot of pride in that, really, because of the fact that I mean, that was the thing. My dad was a forester, and I mean, the man was up at 6 o'clock every day, and I didn't see him till 4 o'clock. And I mean, and so I don't feel like I missed out on any relationship with my dad, but I also know that my quality, like, I mean, the week of Thanksgiving, I have nowhere to be and nothing to do. And so we get to, I mean, we get to go to the movies, we get to go do things. And usually the beauty in my travel time is even though, I mean, our shows have really increased over the past year. So I'm gone a lot of weekends. But, if I'm gone a lot of weekends, that means I probably leave on Wednesday night. I put the girls to bed. I leave on Wednesday night to get to a show on Thursday. I go Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I come home on Sunday and, rest up a little bit. And then I got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday to take them to school, you know what I mean? To do all the things that I get to do. And so it's really nice to be able to do that. So, the times that I'm gone, I am gone, but that's sort of the balance is when I'm home, I'm home and available and am able to focus.
Well, and I was gonna say, as a fellow girl dad,
Mm,
my daughter's 5. She tonight she was at ballet combo.
yeah.
Tomorrow it's hip hop dance. What's it like to be able to just share those moments with your daughters and just enjoy that?
Well, you know how it is. I feel like that there's a level of affection that you can give your daughters that most men wouldn't give their sons. You know what I mean? Like, and I can't remember. This may be something I read or just a conversation. With sons, it starts out as one of those things to where, like, what somebody said that boys start out worse and get better, and girls start out better and get worse, and meaning that
I'm worried about that. I'm
yeah,
very
I
worried
know, me
about
too,
that.
I know, very much so. But I just feel like that you're trying to with men you sort of have to raise them in a way to get them out of the nest faster. You know what I mean? Because, like, and granted, we live in a modern age. A woman can be a provider as much as a man can, but at the same time, it's almost like it's just kind of this sort of instinctive attitude to where, like, you sort of you know you want to create a man's independence more than, and again, like I said, I don't think it's any kind of preconceived notion. I just think it's a natural human tendency to want to just have a more affectionate relationship with my daughters. And so that's a good thing for me because I mean, I do enjoy. I enjoy having an affectionate relationship with my little girls. I mean, it's nice. I mean, and it suits my personality a lot more than it would with boys, I think.
So I was gonna say, with my 5-year-old, every now and then I got to deal with little boy being like, "I love her, I like her," and I'm like, "Whoa, we are way too early for that."
It's funny because I have a 5-year-old too, and well, I have a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old, and so um, neither one of them are like that yet. Thankfully, we have. So I consider myself fortunate to not be dealing with that quite yet. You know what I mean? Like, the girls
You're a lucky
they
man.
have
You're a
guys that,
lucky man.
yeah, I know. I really feel like I'm lucky because it could be the other way around, and I do know it's coming, but I don't. We're not there yet, so I my heart breaks for you, my friend.
I appreciate. Thankfully, there for a little while, she's like, "Well, since I can't marry you, Dad, I'll marry so and so." I'm like, "Whoa."
Yes.
Thankfully, we're back to now. Like, hey, I'm not gonna tell him, but you're still my guy. And I'm like, oh, that just it just filled up my heart.
Well, that's kind of what I tell the girls too. I'm like, listen, you don't need boys. You have me, so you're not going to, like, you don't need a boyfriend. You don't need to be. And I kind of jokingly say that to him. I'm like, you don't need to be talking to that little boy because you have me. So until I'm, as long as I'm around, there's no other boys in your life. You know what I mean? And so I'm going to try to milk that as long as I can. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying so hard
I know
on
it's
that.
hard.
And
It really is.
it is. And now speaking of hard questions, I'm going to ask you a really hard question about music.
Yeah.
What's your favorite song these days to perform, whether it's yours or someone else? Because I always like asking folks this question because you always get very interesting answers.
Um, Usually you can gauge my favorite songs by the first three songs I play. Um, because those are the ones that kind of, I mean, well, okay, so I start out my set with I start out my acoustic set with Bad Days Better, and then I do Bad Days Better, and then I do Easy Way, which is off the Somewhere in Between album, and then I'll usually do like Front Porch Thing, which is, Front Porch Thing is a cool song because it's a conversation piece. I mean, it also, like, those three are really representative of my style. There's a certain picking pattern with those. Like, there's a little bluesier background with all three of those songs that really kind of represents the whole country blues thing that I do. And the writing aspect of it too. One of them is a kind of a positive thinking song. One of them is a love song. One of them is just a, like I said, hillbilly blues. Um, and then with Front Porch Thing, I wrote that with Stapleton. Little Big Time recorded it. So, like, it's my moment to sort of, here's my first bragging thing. You're not going to hear me say this much, but I did this. You know what I mean? And so those, I mean, I'd say one of my favorites to perform right now is probably Bad Days Better, just because I feel like we nailed it. I mean, the musical aspect of it is fun to play. I enjoy playing the guitar parts. I did it on the record, and I like the subject matter. It's just a good one to come out of the gate with. And so right now, that's one of my favorite songs. Downturn is another one that's the one that, like, I noticed that's a really quiet moment in my set. You know what I mean? Like, that's the one where I make some really solid eye contact, and those are the moments when, like, okay, I can tell everybody's listening. And there's lines in that song that I'm really proud of. I mean, Jason Eady and I wrote that, and I don't know, I feel like some of the things that you can put on a T-shirt are certainly in Downturn. And so I'm proud of that one.
I was gonna say a lot of your songs are very relatable
Thank
that
you.
you've written. If people ever can figure out what you've written, they'll be like, oh wait, I see where everything came from, and I love that about what you've done.
Thank you.
And obviously you went back to the vault a little bit with different groove. Are we gonna see? Obviously, we're getting close to the end of 2023. Get ready to head into 2024. Are they gonna hear any new music from you? What can we expect as the year closes out and 2024 comes
Yeah,
around?
Brent, I don't know that we'll put out new music, but I know we're going into the studio in December. So, and basically, I made the last record with Brent Cobb. Well, I made the last original, like the new, like, not Different Groove record. I made Bad Days Better. Brent recorded. He produced that one, and so he and I talked about it, and I think we want to make another record together, and timing has been difficult for the both of us. But we're going to go in December and just cut a couple of songs just to have something to deliver first of 2024, and then we're going to try to go back into the studio to make something more full length in February. That's the plan. Yeah. So I'm trying to get to, and up until uh well, I guess that, well, Bad Days Better came out. It's been this time frame where it was like 3.5 years between albums, and that's too long to wait. And so that was kind of why
A lot can happen, right? A lot can
a lot can
happen.
happen. I know. And we kind of got to the point where we realized that we started putting out records like that, and I would go back into these markets, and it was almost like starting over. And so it just there's no need in it. Like, I don't have to wait that long to make records. We just have to be more proactive about our plans, and that's what we're doing. And so, but the beauty in that is the thing that's kind of saved me is the fact that I've gone in, like, after Somewhere in Between, we went in and cut like three songs. Like, we put out Pine Cones and You Love Me Like That and stuff like that. So we put those songs out, and then we made, well, not You Love Me Like That. We put Pine Cones out and Modam Crickets and that song, This Opening Line. We did that. Then we put out Bad Days Better. Then after Bad Days Better, we went in and recorded You Love Me Like That and Broke Not Broken, and so like, you can do singles now, and so that's kind of been the thing that sort of helped me. It's sort of, I mean, for lack of a better phrase, bought me a little time in the recording process to where I have a few leftovers from an album that I can put out as singles at the end of a year or at the beginning of another one, to where we can, I mean, it'll basically make the album itself. It'll make that cycle a 2-year cycle, but we still got something new every 16, 18 months. You know what I mean? So that's been the method so far, and I got plenty of material. I mean, songs, I got tons of songs, man. I got plenty of stuff.
Well, then why are you sitting on it all?
I know, right? I know. I gotta keep everybody on their toes.
Well, I love to hear that, because I love everything that you've been putting out, and like I said, going into this, the more I looked in, and I was like, holy schmoly, the songs that you have written that I also enjoy, that I didn't realize you had a hand in, was just extra special. And Adam, I appreciate you sharing a little bit of your story, a little bit of your background, and sharing a very light drink with me as well.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks for having me. This is cool. Yeah, and I appreciate that. It's nice. I appreciate you sort of digging in and seeing the things that we do, because it really kind of it helps tell the story. And there's I try to be in as many places as I can, and just I love what I do, and I love working with people, and so I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely, dude. You are, like I said, if folks don't know, they need to find out, and hopefully after this they get that chance.
I hope so. I hope so too. I appreciate the opportunity to do so.
Find more from Hops and Spirits at hopspirits.com.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.